welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back with a race at Bathurst taken from a few weeks ago. I did upload one race from that day, but I had a few very good races there, and I did say at the time I was going to wait for this race to give it a little bit of time just so I didn't upload the same race very close together. And obviously at Bathurst, driving the Group 3 cars, I'm driving the Corvette. This was pretty much the day after I started using the bumper camera, so still a little bit rusty with it, but it was a really good battle, and again proving why I did switch the views to the bumper camera. As you can see, going to the TV replay cameras for the start of the race, starting behind V Cristiano and IRT Nisman just up ahead, and TX3 Dayro in the lead there. So starting P4, a very high strength field really for this race, some really good fast drivers in it. Also just behind me myself, Oscar Ruse, is it, I think, very fast driver. He was the driver that I was racing against at Suzuka. As you can see, going into turn 2, Dayron going on the inside, but IRT Nisman tries to go around the outside, trying to hold it all the way. I'm also battling in the background with Oscar Ruse, and all of us going through that corner side by side, nearly 3 wide at one point, and just about get through that corner without any contact. Some great driving between the all 5 drivers involved there. No contact, respect, and that's what we like to see. Total clean driving. No one actually gained a position, and no one lost any positions there in the top 5. So nearly came into contact going through the corner, but we went side by side, and then at one point nearly 3 wide. That was some great battling. As you can see, they're now holding on to P4 as we ride on board with the TV replay cameras. I do love watching these cars coming down the downhill section. You can see V Cristiano getting a little bit sideways there, really attacking the downhill section. I'm also driving fairly aggressive. At this stage I was still trying to get used to the view, but I was much better on this straightaway than I was on the cockpit. It was just instantly better, and it's actually interesting to watch this back. It's been over 2 weeks since I raced this race, so it's good to watch this back. As you can see, going down the hill, trying to pick up the slipstream. You can see that Lexus really fast also down the straights, picking up the slipstream of the Corvette in front of him. I've got the Nissan behind me, a lot of fast cars in this race. You can see top 5 very fast cars, and P1 there, Dayron, going quite comfortably through turn 1, but P3, V Cristiano has a little, I think he late braked and lost control, so I go down the left hand side, then cut back over to the right hand side and get myself side by side with P2, brake a little bit late just so he can't go up that inside, and I've got myself into P2 after V Cristiano kind of took Nisman out, but Nisman just got away with that and didn't lose too much time. But luckily for myself, got myself up into P2 behind Dayron, and now just need to try and concentrate on putting some lap times in. 1.8, 1.7, 1.8 seconds behind Dayron at this point, so just try and keep him under pressure, see if I can make any gains. It's going to be very hard. He's a very fast driver on this game, so just trying to keep some consistency and put some solid laps in now to the pit stop phase, basically, to try and see if we can gain anything on him at all. Obviously I've got to be a little bit careful with the fuel. Dayron's probably going to save a little bit more fuel than me. I think it was a bit faster in general on this track, but Nisman behind me as well is going to be picking up that slipstream. So I've got to make sure I'm short shifting this car as much as possible, so I don't burn away as much, any extra fuel. Got to try and short shift it a little bit, just to make sure that while he's in that slipstream, he's not going to gain too much of an advantage when we get to the pits. You can see also pushing really hard through these corners. You can see just behind IRT Nisman, you've got Oscar Ruse, V Cristiano all the way down to P8 after that mistake. He lost out quite a bit. I think he picked up a big penalty for the contact that he made. But going on the downhill section, 102 on the first lap, that's quite an okay sector for the first lap. You can see really pushing on my first flying lap. Obviously the first lap is not a natural flying lap. This is your first proper time lap. Pushing quite hard, and looks like it's going to be a 202. It's quite hard to get into the 202s on your first run, but this lap's going reasonably well so far. You can see actually pulled away from IRT Nisman going onto the back straight. He's now picking that slipstream up and slowly gaining back on myself as I go through the middle sector, and another reasonably good sector split there as we come to the final sector now before we go over the line. And it'll be interesting to see if we made this into the 202s. It was quite hard to do for your first lap, obviously, when the car's quite heavy. And you can see a little bit of oversteer there, lost a little bit of time there where I've just tried to put the power down too early because I knew I was on a good lap and I was actually closing in on P1 slightly. Going into the final corner, onto the power as early as possible, into third gear, and let's see what we get as we go over the line. It's a 202.7, so really happy with that on lap 2 of the race. Really good speed, to be fair. It could have been a bit faster also. I think P1 there did a 202.6 or a 5. So I would have been reasonably close to that lap if I didn't make that little error when I got the oversteer. Maybe lost me half a tenth to a tenth of a second. and again going through the sector, purple sector there, up the hill. So on for another really good lap straight away at the start, for the first sector. IRT Nisman just holding on in the slipstream there, using probably just using my slipstream to save some fuel at this phase of the race. It'll help him, just using that 2 mixture every now and then, just get that odd 1-2% extra fuel when we get to the pit stop phase. It's what a lot of people tend to do at the top of the field is use, if you're behind the car, rather than battling them before the pits, it kind of makes sense just to sit behind them like he's doing here and just use that slipstream to help you save fuel. You can see I'm pushing quite hard because I'm trying to make some gains on day run. I want to put him under pressure. I want to make sure that he's not backing off too much. And you can see again going through that sector with another purple sector, over a 10th up. We've got a little bit of oversteer going on this downhill section, but not too bad. Still reasonably good through there, and then coming through to the final corner, the corner that's probably one of the trickiest corners on the track. Took quite a tight line into that corner, didn't get on the power as nicely as I would have liked there, and probably lost out on a few attempts just on that one corner. We'll see when we come through to the next split what I actually lost there, but my guess is probably 2 to 3 attempts. I'm not too sure. Let's have a little look as we go through the sector split what we lost there. We lost about 2 attempts there from just that little bit of turning in a little bit of fraction too early and not getting on the power. But you can see behind me, I knew straight away now that IRT Nisman wasn't trying to overtake me because he didn't come flying past on that straight. So I put it into 2 mixture, and you can see myself now trying to counter some of the fuel saving that I know he's doing to try and give myself some fuel, when we pit, that they don't jump me by 2 seconds. I want to make sure that if they do jump me, I'm right behind them for picking up the slipstream again. So going down line, back into 1 mixture, obviously for the power zone now. And you can see TX3 Day Road not really pulling away, still 2 seconds ahead, not making massive gains so far in this race. Looks like myself P1 and P3 fairly evenly matched. We've pulled a bit away from P4 Oscar Ruse there in the Nissan. He seems to have dropped back a little bit. Maybe he's made an error somewhere, lost a bit of time. I'm not too sure. He could be fuel saving. Not really sure what made him fall back a little bit. You can see he's not actually that far back. If you look back on that top right hand corner, you can see him in the distance. He's about 2-3 seconds behind. So just hanging on in this race in P4, and V Cristiano up to P6 there. You can see on the left hand side he's made up a position, but probably too far back to really come into play in this race now. And this looks like a battle between myself, Dayrone, and IRT Nisman. Some great racing so far, really close battling with IRT. IRT just seems to be holding back at this phase, making sure that he's saving his fuel. Very sensible driving by him and very clever driving. It's what a lot of the top, like I say, the top drivers do this. They just sit there saving fuel. But you can see I'm using that mixture 6 on this downhill section to try and counter what I know that he's doing. I know that he's saving fuel, so I need to try and save some fuel myself, so when we get to that pit stop phase, he's not just going to jump me massively. As you can see, trying to get on the power nice and early in that fuel mixture too, just to help stabilise the rear. Now obviously the car's starting to get a bit of tyre wear, so not always the best case to use one mixture all the time on the power zones, on the actual exit. Sometimes using that 2 mixture just settles the car down a bit, but again you can see IRT Nisman gaining in that slipstream, but then again he's back. I can see that he's using fuel mixture 6 probably there in my slipstream, so I'm going to start using some saving fuel myself. This is really a strategy part of the race, this part where you're just trying to counter what the other driver's doing to make sure that you're not, not going to lose too much out, because I know that he's going to be able to save more fuel in my slipstream. There's not much I can do about that because he's got the advantage of being able to pick up that slipstream as much as possible. As you can see, he had a massive moment on the exit of the final corner there and got a little bit of oversteer. You can see he's still going over the line on a 2 minutes 3.5 with massive fuel saving. So it just show you how much my pace has improved on the first day of this track. I'm looking forward to getting back on this track now that I'm a lot more used to this view now. I think that I'll be even more competitive now. As you can see, IRT Nisman very close to losing the slipstream, about 8 tenths behind now on the final lap before we pit. So I decided to try and push a little bit harder on this lap and see if I could possibly break the slipstream fully and give myself a second advantage when I got in the pits, because I knew that he'd have a little bit more fuel going into the pit. So I thought if I give myself a second advantage, that will just counter it a little bit in terms of the fuel. It will give me that little bit of extra time to put the fuel in, just to make sure I don't come out too far behind him. And interestingly, he's starting to catch TX3 Dayrone also. He's obviously saving some fuel as well. It looks like he's using mixture 2 or 3 through this section now, because this is where I'm gaining on. Look how much I'm gaining on. I gained like 3 tenths on him just in them few corners, but ran a little bit wide there, but somehow got away with that. So close to losing control and spinning it on the curb, but got away with it, kept it on the track, and just pushing as hard as I can now on the downhill section and getting very close to Dayrone there. Would have been really nice to pick up a slipstream to help me down the straight, but just too far back. You can see back to 1.6, 1.7 seconds. But IRT Nisman there, 9 tenths behind, and starting to get close to losing that slipstream, but he's just about in it, so he's able to hang on down the straights and still picking up a little bit of a slipstream, but it's not as much as he would have been if he was a little bit closer. So trying to see if I can get that gap to around the second for the pit stop, just to, like I say, give myself that little bit of boost for when I get into the pits, just to put the fuel in, because I was 100% sure that he'd have more fuel than me, purely because he's behind me the whole race. He's going to be able to save more fuel just being in the slipstream, and obviously if he's right behind there, he's going to be able to do more fuel saving because he's going to have that speed advantage. So going in the pits, really aggressive pit entry there, trying to save as much time as possible. Into the pits, you can see both IRT Nisman and TX3 Dayrone 4% more fuel than myself, sorry. So they've done that little bit more fuel saving than myself. So it was actually not too bad that IRT Nisman wasn't massively ahead of myself. You can tell that they've altered the fuel saving on this car, because short shifting used to save this car a real lot of fuel, but now they've definitely shortened that and it doesn't save as much. Coming out the pits right behind IRT Nisman, look at that, right on his back of his gearbox in his slipstream. Unfortunately, I would have rather have been a little bit further back so I could pick up more of a slipstream, but I'm going to have to pull out fairly early now because of that and go to the left hand side to see if I can go around the outside. This is going to be a really hard move to make. It's one of the hardest moves you can make at this track, trying to hang it around the outside with side by side, no contact made. Absolutely brilliant driving by both. He give utter respect there, giving me space on the left hand side, but I couldn't make that move. And going into the left hand corner, he's managed to hold that off. So trying to put some pressure on straight away to see if I can get past Nisman there, but just couldn't get past there. It was really hard to try and go around the outside of that corner, even when you're ahead in that corner. It's just so hard. The grip just fades away, and I did everything I could to try and get myself back into P2, but now just hanging on there in the slipstream. You can see Dayrone still only around the second ahead. Probably put a little bit more fuel in so we can drive aggressive on this final stint now. But myself and IRT Nisman obviously battling as well is going to help him pull away, because we're getting really close. Look at how close we are on the downhill section. Pushing as hard as I can to push IRT as well. And this is getting really close. As you can see, IRT Nisman actually takes very tight line into that corner, and that compromises his exit of the next corner. And now on the downhill section, I'm going to pick up a massive slipstream straight away, picking that slipstream up because of his error, and it looks like I'm going to be able to make a move now going into before the corner. So we go to the top of the hill. I'm going to pull out to the right hand side and try and make that move into the corner. You're going to see there side by side into the corner, make that move, and now I've got to give him space on that left hand side. If he decides to brake late, I give him the space, and he's not gone for that move, so I take the normal racing line and back up to P2. Some great racing again by ourselves, respectful racing, giving each other space, and really enjoyable to be involved with. As you can see now, riding on board with IRT Nisman. As you can see myself trying to put that power down to give myself some ability to get on the power, to give myself the ability to build up a little bit of a gap as we go onto this straight now, because I need to get as much of a gap as possible as I run wide and lose a little bit on the exit. You can see kicking up the grass as I'm really trying to get on the power and get aggressive with the exit. And now IRT Nisman is going to have a run on me. He's going to go to the left hand side. Is he going to pick up it and go to the left? He's going to go down that left hand side and try and make a similar move to myself. He's a little bit further ahead than I was though before. He's managed to get ahead. He's gone really deep into the corner. I hold a really tight line, give him as much space as possible, and just about myself hold that position as well. So I'm pretty much a replica of before, but in reverse roles, and I've kept that P2 again. Great racing from both of us. As I get a little bit of rear screaming on the rear there, it tried to give up on me and really trying to drive aggressively, and this is just helping Dayrone pull away now, because we're battling so hard with each other. We're probably losing a second, half a second a lap at least, but it's great fun to be racing like this with IRT Nisman around Bathurst. But then going into the fast left hand corner, I actually turned in too early, clipped the wall and lost that position. So all that hard fighting, and I'm back down into P3. Luckily not lost a massive amount of time, about 8 tenths behind him, and now I've got to just try and push and see if I can hold on to that slipstream. A little bit frustrated with myself at that mistake. It was a silly mistake to make. Just turned in, this was obviously the first day after I started using this view, and I just turned in too early and just clipped the front of the car on the barrier on the left hand side and lost quite a big amount of time there. You can see in the distance there Oscar Rue's also closing in on this battle where we're fighting so much. He's managed to gain about a second on ourselves. He was about 4 or 5 seconds behind, and he looks like he's about three and a half seconds, something like that now, maybe 3 seconds behind. You can see myself looking back on myself, trying to just get some calm and try and settle back into a routine. Whenever you make a mistake, it can be hard to get back into a routine. So just trying to settle things down now. You can see IRT Nisman has obviously picked up a penalty somewhere. I'm not too sure where he's picked that up. It was possibly at the start of the race when he took that contact from V Cristiano, and he's probably got to get rid of that at the finishing line. It'll probably only be a 1 second penalty, but he will need to get rid of that. But you can see also myself on the fuel getting quite marginal. I've got 2 laps of fuel, 2 laps left. However, that's based on the fuel saving that I'd done at the start, so it's going to get very close when we get to the finish with the fuel. Going through that sector on another personal best, so hooking that corner up and just trying to stay in his slipstream now. Unfortunately, I'm like just 9 tenths behind. I'm not picking up a massive amount of slipstream at this phase, so I've got to drive fairly aggressively and just be cautious of my shifting on my fuel, just so that I don't get to the point where I've got nothing left for the final section of track. But reasonably staying with him. We've so evenly matched at this track, myself and IRT. It just proved to be great racing this, and just trying to hold on now, see if I can pick up a slipstream at any point. But IRT Nisman doesn't make many mistakes at this track. Very fast drive around here, and again much better through that corner this time. If I would have done it like that before, it would have been a lot better. You can see going through that sector with a purple sector, a personal best, and a purple fastest sector of the race so far, and just trying to really push and get back into that slipstream. He's pushing as well, but look how much time we've lost today, Rome, with that battling that went on. We're now 4 seconds behind, 4.2 seconds behind, and it shows you what battling does do. Also Oscar Rue's behind there, 3.2 seconds behind, so he's gained in, and V Cristiano back up to P5 also, but they're too far back to really play any role in this race now. We've got 1 and a bit laps to go, and this is all about P2 and P3 this race. As I go through that with another personal best, this was looking like a very good lap coming to the to see what it would be as we go to the finishing line. Trying to hook this corner up, getting on the powers early as possible. A little moment of oversteer there, it dragged me a little bit wide, and unfortunately I probably lost me on about a tenth, but just about hang on to the car and don't lose more than that. Maybe a tenth or so lost with that little error as I go over the finishing line. Let's see what lap this will be at, maybe a 202.6 or something, 202.5. so that little tenth that I lost, or tenth or two that I lost, probably avoided it getting. I was possibly heading for a 202.3, but this is great racing. This is what I like to be involved with on GT Sport, when very evenly matched, pushing as hard as you can. You know, mistakes are made because you're pushing so hard, and this is what I think people want to watch. You know, drivers driving as hard as they can. You can see again the fuel is looking like it could be an issue towards the end, but I kind of just thought, you know what, I'm just going to short shift it obviously, but if I run out, I run out. I've got to keep pushing and putting IRT Nisman under pressure. As you can see, he's really attacking the corners as well. You can see the rear stepping out there, where he's getting the line perfect for that corner, and he really did hook that little section up. He's got himself just over 8 tenths away. Look at the car there, going sideways nearly, where I'm really trying to attack the corners, attack every line, and get on the powers early as possible. Actually skim the wall there, and again clip the wall, where I'm trying to just gain every ounce of every little second, tenth of a second that I can. And unfortunately that's put me out the slipstream, down to 1.3 seconds behind because of that mistake. Lost half a second, but I had to go for it. I had to be aggressive, because if I could have hooked that up perfectly, I could have picked up more of a slipstream, and then I could have possibly made a move down this back straight. But it didn't work out, and I've dropped back to 1.3 seconds behind because of a silly mistake. But like I say, in that situation, it was pretty much do it or I wasn't going to win anyway, so it failed to come off, and down to 1.4 seconds behind. So kind of just settled now for P3, but what a great race to be involved with. I thoroughly enjoyed this race against IRT Nisman as we come through to the final sector, and obviously my fuel is looking very low. You can see how I kind of just sacrificed the fuel. I'm down to 0.1 laps of fuel left, 1% of fuel, and I've actually got a little bit of driving to do, so let's see if I can even make it. I decided to just leave it in that one mixture and just short shift it and just hope that I'd get to the finishing line. You can see there, putting the power down, he's got to get rid of his penalty, that's what I knew, but unfortunately ran out of fuel just there. He got rid of his penalty, I ran out of fuel, I end up just a few tenths behind IRT Nisman. A great race, thoroughly enjoyable, and I hope to have more races like that at this track. I do enjoy this track, it does always seem to give really good races, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll be back with more videos as soon as possible. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. I do upload as much as possible, pretty much every day. And click that notification button so you don't miss any videos. And also give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching, everyone.